Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance's webinar series. My name is Christine Beck, and I know it says today is May 11th, but it's actually not. Today is Monday, October 2nd, 2017, and we are excited to bring you how to lobby your state legislature. And as a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode. We have a couple polls that we'll ask you to participate in. You'll be able to comment and send questions and other information via the text box on your control panel, so please use that. We are also recording this webinar so that you can listen and watch it again, or you can share it with friends and family so they know how to lobby the state legislature as well. So again, a little bit about the Alliance. We are a statewide team of self-advocacy groups in Illinois. We work together to make life better in our communities, and we work to make services better around our state. We want self-advocacy groups from around Illinois to speak together with one loud voice. We can do more when we all work together. The Alliance currently has 25 member groups all around Illinois. So no matter where you live or work, there is an Alliance member group near you. We have member groups in Zion, Illinois, and McHenry. We have a member group in Rock Island and LaSalle, Peru, and Pontiac. We are well represented in the Chicago area with member groups in Alsop, Brookfield, the city of Chicago, Chicago Heights, Homewood, and Joliet. We also have member groups in Central Illinois, including Beardstown, Jacksonville, Bloomington, Decatur, Champaign, and Monticello. Further down south, we have member groups in Alton and Edwardsville, Illinois. And over to the east, we have a member group in Charleston. A big shout out to CTF Advocacy. I know you're on today's webinar. So again, we are very excited to have member groups all around Illinois. So I'd like to introduce you to the presenters. On the left, you see John Porter. John is an outspoken self-advocate from Springfield, Illinois, and we are excited that he has joined us today. And on the right is Vickie Kean. She's from Don Moss and Associates, and we are excited. We're coming to you live in Springfield, Illinois. Actually, if we stepped out the front door of Don Moss and Associates office, we could look to our left and we see the state capitol right there down the street. So we are coming to you where a lot of things happen, but we want you to know you can make things happen in your own communities. And so, John, would you read this quote for us? I think it'll start us out nicely.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. By Margaret Mead.
Thank you, John. And you know what? When we think about the Alliance and our member groups, we are small groups of thoughtful, committed citizens. And again, we can work to make changes in our lives and in our communities around the state and even around the nation. So thank you, John, for reminding us with that quote. And so, Vickie, I know that at Don Moss and Associates, you do a lot of legislative advocacy and you do a lot of speaking to our elected officials. So tell us a little bit about the Illinois legislature.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. The Senate and the House of Representatives make up the legislature. The party, the Democrats or the Republicans, having the most members, gets to choose the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President of the Senate and the chair of all the committees. So these are really important positions which everybody wants to have so that they can control the flow of the legislation. In January, following the every 2-year election, the Speaker and the Senate President set up committees. and every bill must pass through a committee before it can be voted on.
So that's important information to know. There are two houses. One is the Senate and one is the House of Representatives. And John, tell us a little bit about the House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives contains 118 members who are elected every 2 years, and the Senate contains 59 members who serve 4-year terms.
All right. So again, thanks, John. The House of Representatives, there's 118 members, and they get elected every 2 years. And as John said, the Senate has 59 members, and they serve for 4 years. Whew, that's a lot of people serving a lot of years. So I want to share a couple pictures with you. At our Going Home rally that happens in the spring, some of our groups who attended took the opportunity to see legislature in action. Now, Vickie, I don't know if you can tell, is this the Senate or the House of Representatives that we are looking at?
I believe it's the House.
Okay, so within each of them, there is a gallery that visitors can go and sit in, and they can watch and hear and see what is happening. So this is a picture of some self-advocates from one of the groups who attended Going Home, and they are checking out the proceedings. Well, I went too fast. I got too excited. Here's another exciting picture. So again, this came from the Going Home rally. For those of you who went, you remember that we asked you to drop off information to your elected officials and also to the governor. And so this is a self-advocate from Little City up in Chicago, and he is dropping off information at the governor's office. And the governor wasn't in that day. He wasn't able to receive any visitors, but dropping information off to the secretary or receptionist is good as well. So that's a picture of that. And then the final picture is another self-advocate, and he is dropping off information about Going Home to one of his elected officials. So these are ways that we can get involved, and we're going to learn even more. But before we do that, I have a question for you. And so the question is this: have you ever been to the state capitol in Springfield? Have you ever been to the state capitol in Springfield? All right, so go ahead and vote. And I know we have a lot of people out there, so if you want to just vote as a group, yes, we have, or no, we haven't. So again, the question or poll is, have you ever been to the state capitol in Springfield? So go ahead and let us know. Have you ever been to the state capitol in Springfield? All right. And maybe folks aren't quite by their computer to be able to chime in. But I do know that we have had self-advocates at the state capitol in Springfield. And I really recommend, if you have an opportunity to attend a rally, that you try and attend. It really is quite interesting, and you can really be a part of advocacy and action. So in order to find your legislator at the Capitol, you need to know who your legislator is. So Vickie, can you tell us about that?
Sure. It's real easy to find your legislator. You can go to your computer and go to www.ilga.gov and click on Legislator Lookup. A map will come up, and then you click on the map of Illinois. You enter your address and click Search. Your legislators' names will be listed. You simply can click on their name to get a complete contact information.
And so as Vickie read this off, now we're going to show you. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the web page for the Illinois General Assembly. I have a red arrow that's pointing to legislator lookup. When you click on that, a map will show up like you see on the left or the right-hand side of your screen. So I have an arrow that goes to that. Then the next thing you do is you type in your address. So I typed in my home address where you see the red arrow, the picture on the left. And once I type in my address and click find address, my legislator information showed up, and my representative is Katie Stewart, and it shares where I can find her either in Springfield or at her local office. So it's as easy as that. So John, sometimes people can't get to Springfield and meet their legislators, but they can pick up the phone and call them. So tell everybody how they can do that.
Introduce yourself and say that you live in their district. Be brief to the point. If you're calling about a bill, give the number, what is it about, and what's your position on it and why. If it's an issue, explain why they should support it.
All right. And what else can they do?
Be prepared to answer any questions about the bill or issue. Thank them and indicate that you will send them a reminder note on the bill or issue. If the legislator's on the office, their secretary will ensure they get your message. They'll even call you back.
All right, so if you can't be there in person at the Capitol, you can pick up the phone and give them a call. But wait, there's more. There's other ways that you can contact your legislator, such as writing or emailing. So Vickie, tell us how that works.
Absolutely. And their legislators do want to hear from you. They want to represent you. So when you do write to your legislator, make sure that you type or write very clearly so that they can understand. Be brief and to the point and write about one bill in each letter. Use your letterhead if you represent a group. Sign your full name and address because your legislator will respond. And if you're working with others on a particular issue, let them know that you're working with others. Make your position very clear. Be specific about what your legislator can do. Sometimes people make the mistake of writing a letter but never putting in what we call the ask. So always make sure you ask for what you want them to do. Refer to the bill by name and number, and make your letters personal. Explain how it affects you. And then be reasonable and never, ever threaten. That gets you nowhere. Be appreciative of any positive votes that they have done in the past and make sure you thank them for those votes. Put your return address in your letter, not just your envelope, because often the envelope gets thrown away. We also discourage the use of postcards. We'd rather you write a letter. Sometimes postcards don't see postcards as important as a personal letter. Plus, you don't have as much space to write about your story. Send when the bill is in your legislator's chamber or committee. So making sure you keep track of where those bills are important. If you write several legislators, write them individually. Don't carbon copy a letter and send it to everybody. Try to be personal in each letter. Address your legislators as the Honorable Senator or the Honorable Representative or Honorable Governor. The address will be either at the State House or at the Stratton Building, and there will be a room number that you have to include. And of course, they're located in Springfield, Illinois.
Thanks, Vickie. And I have a sample here on the screen of a letter I wrote to my representative, Katie Stewart. So I have the date of August 22nd, 2017, and I addressed it the Honorable Katie Stewart, 250 West Stratton Office Building. That's her office building in Springfield, Illinois. And the letter reads, Dear Representative Stewart, I live in District 112. I am worried about funding for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live full lives in the community. People should have choices in where and how they live. I would like to invite you to meet with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are living in the community. So that was my ask. I'm asking her, come meet people, learn about people, get to know people. I conclude with thank you for your time. You can reach me at, and I put my phone number if she wants to call me, and my email address if she wants to email me. I signed it, and then I included my address. Well, so far, she hasn't come by my house, and she hasn't called me, but maybe she did, and I didn't answer, and she didn't email me, but I'm waiting. At least my contact information is there, so she can get in touch with me. So I want to show you some pictures of other self-advocates who have written letters. So this letter writing campaign happened in July, and it was our Alliance Board of Directors and Alliance ambassadors, and they were writing to their U.S. legislators and to President Trump about proposed decrease in funding for the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. And we know that the elected officials got the letters, and we are happy to report that they changed their mind on decreasing funding for the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. So remember, your voice counts. When you speak up and speak out, whether it's by phone or email or in a letter, people listen. So what other ways can you meet with folks? We heard about letters, we heard about phone calls, we heard about emails, and meeting face-to-face. So Vickie, can you tell us about that?
Sure. Face-to-face meetings are really one of the best ways to share what's important to you with your legislators. If you meet one-on-one with a group, make an agenda beforehand so everybody knows what their role is at the meeting. Pick one or two issues to discuss. Don't try to cover too much at one time. Make an appointment. If you drop by without an appointment, you may have to wait, your legislator may have to postpone something, or you may not get to see them at all. And be on time. Always introduce yourself, even if it's the second or third time that you've met your legislator, introduce yourself, because they meet a lot of people. So they may need a reminder of your name. Get down to business quickly, begin on a positive note. Let them know what the bill number is, the title of the bill and the author if you know, and then state your issue and your position and what you want them to do.
Remember, Vickie said earlier, remember your ask. You are asking them to do something. So make sure you ask. What else can you do when meeting with your legislator?
You always want to make sure you're thanking your legislator. Even if they haven't made a commitment to support your issue, thank them for their time. Be specific, clear, and simple. Provide information about how the issue impacts you personally. Personal stories go a long way with legislators. Anytime you have fact sheets or charts or statistics, always leave them with them because it'll make them think about it later.
And I'm glad, Vickie, you said something about a personal story because John's going to share about the importance of a personal story a little bit later.
Also, you want to make sure that you ask what you can do. Ask if you can provide them with any more information or arrange a tour of a program that you participate in, or maybe invite them to see your home. Leave written material when you can. Your legislator will look at it again. They'll file the materials and refer to them later when questions come up. And again, thank your legislator again. Send a written note as soon as you return home.
Those are great ideas. And let me share some pictures of other folks who have met with their elected officials. So on the upper left of your screen, you see two people standing, one person sitting. That is Dane Rockefeller. He's a self-advocate. Kathy Contarino is in the middle. She's the executive director of Impact Center for Independent Living in Alton, and State Senator Bill Hain. So they invited Senator Bill Hain to come to their office, which is the Impact Center for Independent Living in Alton, to meet on, I'm not sure what the issue was, but they extended an invitation and he came. In the middle is, again, Illinois State Senator Bill Hain. He's sitting with self-advocate Michelle Spurlock. Michelle reached out to Senator Hain and said, hey, I invite you to come to my apartment. Living in the community is important to me, and I want to show you where I live and how I live, and that people with disabilities should have the choice and the freedom to live wherever they want. And Senator Hain came. And then on the upper right, there is a picture of two people. One of them is Angela Botts. She is at Impact Center for Independent Service, or Center for Independent Living in Alton, Illinois, and she's in charge of deaf services. And she met with U.S. Congressman Mike Bost. So, you know, when you reach out and ask for people to meet with you, awesome things happen. So, John, we talked about making a phone call. We talked about letters and emails and meeting up with people, maybe up in Springfield, but there's other ways to connect with legislators. So share about those, would you?
Well, there's open houses, or you can go to media events, town meetings, and political fundraisers.
All right. So you can hold an open house or you can attend one. There's media events. Sometimes we hear that our elected officials are going to be at a certain place at a certain time. There's town meetings, and there's always political fundraisers. So thanks for that information, John. Here's a couple other pictures to show you. On the left is a group of self-advocates from CTF Advocacy Center in Charleston, Illinois. They attended a town hall meeting with a representative of John Shimkiss's office, and they were able to ask questions and share information. So that is always an awesome opportunity. And on the right is a self-advocate. Her name is Cammie Smith. She's in Chicago. And she actually made a YouTube video, an open letter to Governor Rauner, in which she shares about the importance of funding services and supports for people with disabilities in Illinois. And John says he knows Cammie, and so that's really awesome. So there's lots of different ways that you can connect. So John, a little bit more about the Illinois General Assembly. If you can't get to Springfield, and maybe you haven't been able to connect with your legislator, what are some other options?
You can go to www.ilga.gov or watch live debates, track progress on bills, and read amendments.
Wow, so you can go to that website and check out more information, which is really good because some of us have difficulty in getting all the way to Springfield. And so you can just go on ILGA and check it out. Again, what you're looking at is a screenshot of the Illinois General Assembly homepage on the website, and I have a red arrow that points to audio and video. Now, they're not going to show audio or video if the House or the Senate isn't in session. So you'd have to check that out, but that's just another opportunity to connect and see what's going on. Now, Vickie had said early on that no bill becomes a law without a whole lot of steps. There's committees and there's readings and there's all kinds of stuff. So hold on to your seat, folks, because there's a lot of steps in how a bill becomes a law.
You're right, Kirsten. And Like you were talking about, when you call your legislator, or you write to them, or you email them, or you visit them at their office, either in Springfield or at their local office where you live, you talk to them about your issues. And if enough people talk to them, they might decide to introduce a bill to address that issue. Oftentimes, the bills that we will follow through all of these steps have come from citizens in the community that have brought issues to the legislator and said, we need to fix this. So what's the first step? Step one is that a legislator gets an idea from you or one of their colleagues, and they introduce a bill. It's done by a senator or a representative, and they introduce that bill. Goes to the Rules Committee, and then the Rules Committee decides if the bill should be considered by the House or the Senate, and if it will move on, gives the bill to a committee based on the subject. For instance, if it's a bill that has to do with, like we recently had the DSP wage increase, that bill would go to the Human Services Committee generally.
All right, so there's different committees, and they decide this idea or bill really needs to go to a particular committee.
Correct.
Where people have an interest and maybe some education and experience in that area.
That's correct.
But let me go back to this step one. It says the introducing of a bill is done by a senator or representative, though the idea could have come from a citizen. So are you saying that if a self-advocate from one of our Alliance member groups had a great idea, that could become a bill?
Absolutely. It often becomes a bill. Many, many times the legislators receive their ideas for bills from local citizens and issues that are affecting their lives.
So if they don't know, if our elected officials don't know what's important to us, they can't make changes.
That's correct.
All right. Okay. So we got step one and step two. Let's keep on stepping.
Absolutely. The next step is when the bill gets into the committee. And the chair of the committee decides when the bill is to be heard and has to post a notice a few days in advance. And you'll see that notice on that ILGA website. You just plug your bill number into a little box on the left-hand side of the screen, and it'll pop the bill up and it'll tell you exactly where it's at. The public, just a few things about the committee process. The public can attend hearings. They can either just observe or they can sign in on a witness slip and give testimony. If you want to give testimony, you have to wait to be called up and be ready to answer any questions after you speak. But it's okay if you don't know all the answers. You simply let the legislators know that respectfully, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will get it for you. And then you want to make sure that you follow up and get them that answer. During the committee process, amendments can be attached to a bill. If somebody decides that some little piece of it needs to be changed, they can put an amendment on that would change that bill. And then the legislators vote, and if the majority recommends do pass, the bill moves on.
All right, and I know we're going to talk about that testimony, but is testimony the same as that personal story you talked about earlier?
Yes, it is. You can get up there and that testimony can be simply a story, and it's even best if it's a story about how this issue affects your life. That's the best testimony you can give.
Well, I can't wait for John to tell us a little bit more about the power of the personal story, but here's about that oral testimony.
Yes, you find the committee clerk, which is generally a person that's kind of wandering around up in those seats where the legislators sit, and you get a witness form. And the witness form basically asks you your name and if you're affiliated with an organization and your contact information so that the sponsor of that bill can get back to you if they want to. You fill the witness form out and you give it to the clerk. And as I said, whenever you're given testimony, you want to make sure you're being respectful and brief and short and to the point, because there's other people that may want to give testimony as well. It's best if you don't read your testimony, speak from the heart, tell that personal story, but make sure you use words that most people will understand, because we want to make sure everybody gets the gist of exactly what your story is. You want to dress nicely, and you want to be prepared to answer questions from the committee.
All right, so that's the third step, but wait, there's more.
Absolutely. These bills get heard more than one time, and they get read into the record more than one time. The next step is the second reading of the bill, and that's when the bill goes to the full Senate or House, and that's after the committee's done all their work, and they pass it on to the Senate or the House, and they allow the legislators to try and either pass it or amend it. Amendments require a majority vote, but before the vote can take place, the bill must return to the Rules Committee to okay the amendment. So at this point, Carison, if somebody changes this bill, it has to go back to the committee, and the committee has to say yes or no for that change before it can move on.
So there's a lot of people talking about it and listening about it and making suggestions and asking questions.
Absolutely.
All right.
And at each step, there's a process that people can be involved in, and you can give your testimony more than one time on a bill.
Awesome. So we've 1, 2, 3, and 4, and here's more.
Yes, we're on to step 5, and that's the third reading of the bill. And that's when the bill is debated on the floor of the Senate or the House. The vote is taken when all the legislators who wish to speak have had a chance to speak. So this is kind of like the last time that this bill can be debated, changed, or voted on the floor as it is. If it gets changed, guess what? It has to go right back to where it started from in all that committees. But if it gets passed out of the original chamber. That means that if it started in the House and it went through all the House committees and it went to the House floor and everybody loved the bill and it passed out of that House, now it's got to go to the Senate and do the exact same thing as steps 1 through 6 as it did on the House side.
So I think what I want to say here is that it takes time. It takes time. There's lots of steps. We're not done with the steps yet, but just because I have a great idea today doesn't mean that the governor's going to sign it into law tomorrow. That there's lots of steps and that there's lots of opportunities that Vickie shared to continue sharing your personal story, to continue speaking up and speaking out.
Absolutely. So steps 7 through 12 are basically the same steps we did previously, only in the other house, either in the Senate or in the House, depending on where the bill started. Step 13 is where everybody comes together and they agree on the changes, on the amendments. And that's called concurrence. When you agree, it's called concurrence. So if any change is made on the second chamber, the bill must be sent back to the original chamber for the changes to be accepted. So we've gone through all of those steps and we've made some changes. Everybody has agreed on it. It's gone through both the houses. Everybody's happy now. So if both chambers agree, which is called, what is it?
Concurrence.
That's right, concurrence on the changes. The bill is then sent to the governor. But we're not done, because step 14 is the conference committee, if it's needed. If both chambers don't agree, then they go to a conference committee where the legislators of both chambers try to work together for a compromise. If the agreement is met, the new wording must go through to the Rules Committee and to 2 standing committees for a final vote. If the 2 Rules Committees and the 2 standing agree to the new wording, the bill goes to the governor. If the 2 Rules Committees and the 2 standing committees do not agree to the new wording, the bill's done. Somebody has to either reintroduce the bill and start all over, or we're done. We just forget it.
Wow. So, it's like in life, everybody gets to have their say, and we have to work together, and sometimes we have to compromise, and we figure things out. And we hope that we continue to speak up and speak out about what's important to us. But here's the 2 final steps.
Yes, it goes to the governor's choice. The governor approves, vetoes, or amends, which means change, the bill within 60 days after receiving it from his desk. He has 60 days to make up his mind. That means he can approve it, he can veto it, or he can amend it or change it. He will be talking to people during this time. You can contact the governor's office during this time. It's important for you to contact the governor's office and say, this bill's important to me, you need to pass it, or this bill's important to me, you need to veto it, and need to tell them your personal story again to let them know why it's important to you. If the governor approves the bill, it becomes law. If the governor chooses to change part of the bill, the House and the Senate must vote to accept or deny those changes. If the governor vetoes the whole bill, the House and Senator can vote to override the veto. You might remember, Carson, that was done recently on the budget.
Yes.
We went 2 years without a budget. We finally got a budget bill. It took a long time. It took a lot of compromise, but we got it through, and it got sent to the governor, and the governor vetoed the bill and sent it back. And then the legislators overrode that veto and made it become law.
Wow, those are a whole lot of steps. And I'm not real good at remembering steps, but I'm real good at remembering a song. And when I send out the recording of this, or if you want, before I send out the recording, I encourage you to Google, I'm Just a Bill, the Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, and listen to it and sing along with it. I was singing it earlier. John's smiling. I'm not sure if he liked my singing, but a lot of us grew up with Schoolhouse Rock, and there's a wonderful short song called I'm Just a Bill, and it explains the process that Vickie just shared of how a bill becomes a law. So I encourage you to do that. But John, we talked earlier about the power of your story. Vickie talked about it. I talked about you have an awesome story, but would you share about the power of your story?
You're the expert in your life. Your story is the most powerful information you can share. Self-advocates, parents, guardians, allies, support, whatever, and support staff have stories about how decisions are made by policymakers has or will affect your life. Policymakers will have wants to hear about meaningful work they can do that will really benefit their constituents.
So the power of your story is real important, so that when you are calling or emailing or writing or meeting, you're presenting oral testimony, you have to have that heartfelt story. We know that you hold your story, and you are the best storyteller for your life. So we encourage you to have a personal story that you can share. Before we ask you to respond to this, Vickie wants to tell us a little bit about the next session where the legislators will be in Springfield. They are not in Springfield all year round. They are here sometimes, but then they're back in their home offices. So they might be near you in Zion and Charleston, and their home office in Springfield or Edwardsville or Decatur or Rock Island, Beardstown, Jacksonville. We have elected officials all over. But Vickie's going to tell you about the next time they are going to be in Springfield.
Absolutely. Right now, your legislators are in their district offices, which are the offices that are closest to your home. It may not be in your same city, but it'll be close to you. And when you look up your legislator, it will tell you not only their Springfield office, but their local district office as well. You can contact them at their district office. In fact, they generally have more time in their district office to sit with you and talk than they do when they're in Springfield. But they are in Springfield during the spring session, which are several months in the springtime, dealing with legislation. And then in the fall, they have what's called the veto session, the fall veto session. And that is a time when technically they're only supposed to consider pieces of legislation that the governor has vetoed. However, there are some procedural holdings that they can put on different bills that will allow them to bring those bills up during veto session. So they can hear some other pieces of legislation during veto. The next session for veto is October the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then again on November 7th, 8th, and 9th. So during those times, your legislator will be in Springfield. And if there is legislation that is important to you and affects you, that would be a good time to come visit them in Springfield.
Oh, thank you, Vicki. And again, like she said, legislators can be found in their home offices right now. And so generally that's the time that they may be able to spend more time with you. But here's what we want you to chime in on. Speak up and speak out. What is one thing you will do to lobby the state legislature? What is one thing you will do to lobby the state legislature? So go ahead and type in using your control panel. We will read your comments and the thing that you're going to do out loud. And while you're talking about that, John, what's one thing that you're going to do to lobby the state legislators?
Talk to my local representative.
Talk to your local representative. And do you know who that person is?
No.
But do you know where you can go to find that information out? Do you go to that website?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember that website?
Oh, yes. I remember the website very, very, very well.
Let's see where it is. You know, I have to write this stuff down as well because I tend to forget it. So help remind me. What's that website?
I'll remind everybody, Christine.
Thank you.
www.ilga.gov. You could watch live debates, track progress on bills, read amendments.
Yes. All right. So maybe that's one thing you do. You find out, hey, I don't know. I can't remember, because we know our elected officials change sometimes every 2 years, sometimes every 4 years. So who is the person I need to connect with? So I like that. I also know that John, the last several going home rallies, he has gone up to the governor's office and has asked to speak with him. The governor wasn't in, but John left information for him. So John is one that we can find around the state capitol at going home time. So Vicki, what's one thing you're going to do to lobby the state legislature?
Well, one thing that I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to write to the legislators and to the governor, thanking them for the recent DSP wage increase. Direct service personnel are the people that allow many of us to be independent in the community and live in the community. And it's important for them to receive a livable wage. And this is one step towards that goal. So I want to thank them for that, first of all. And then second of all, I'm going to be advocating for additional wages for DSPs because they're all underpaid. And that 75 cents, though it's helpful and we're thankful for it, it's not nearly enough.
They have lives too.
That's right, John. They have lives too.
Yes. And many direct support people are, you know, they love what they do. They love supporting people and being with people and helping them live full lives. So thank you for that reminder that they have lives too. And part of their life's work is supporting us. So I like
Kirsten,
that.
what are you going to do?
What am I going to do? That's a good question. I really appreciate that the 75 cents an hour was raised. That's important. I think that I will again write my elected officials and say, I really encourage you to meet people with disabilities living in the community, because I can share the story, but it's not always my story to share. But I would love to connect an elected official with a person living in the community, and they can start a friendship. Because I think when it comes down to votes, maybe the elected officials remember, oh, I remember John, I remember Vickie, I remember Kimberly or Melissa, and I remember what they told me, and so I'm going to vote that way. So does anybody else have anything to add? All right, I'm not seeing anyone wanting to add, but remember, there is always one thing that you can do to lobby the state legislators. So as we close up, this is a time if you have any questions, comments, or considerations, you can share them with us. Go ahead and use your control panel to type those questions, comments, or considerations in. We'll read them out loud. I will ask our wonderful presenters if they have any questions, comments, or considerations. John, do you have any questions, comments, or considerations about what we talked about today?
Just speak up and speak out.
There you go. And speaking of speak up and speak out, we know that a lot of folks are eagerly anticipating the annual Speak Up and Speak Out conference that will be happening at the end of this month, the end of October, early November in Springfield. So that's a time where self-advocates and allies from all over Illinois, we come together to speak with one loud voice. We learn from each other, we teach each other, and it's just a wonderful time to renew old friendships and make new ones. So, Vickie, any questions, comments, or considerations you'd like to share?
Well, I got to tell you, I work with this every single day, Kirsten and John, but having this reminder today about how a bill becomes a law has really helped me even. It's just so many steps that you forget sometimes. So I appreciate you having me here today, and I hope that if anybody has questions and you're in the Springfield area, I hope that you'll look up Don Moss and Associates. We're right on Capitol Avenue. You can stop by and say hello to me anytime you want. And I'd be more than happy to help you out. If you need help getting an appointment or you need help going over to the Capitol, just stop by and let me know that and we'll make it happen.
Wonderful. And Vickie, you said something that I was thinking. I know the Schoolhouse Rock song, I'm Just a Bill. And I guess I didn't realize until I was developing this presentation, there are a lot of steps. And I get frustrated because I want everything to move quickly. And I want it all to move my way. And I realized that the work of democracy is sometimes slow. And sometimes it moves forward and then it moves back. And then, but we have to speak up and speak out about the things we believe in and continue speaking up and speaking out so that changes can be made.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, comments, or considerations. That must mean we gave them all the information they wanted to hear in a way that worked for them. So I just want to remind you, we have Alliance contact information. We also have a website, selfadvocacyalliance.org, and you can also find and like the Alliance on Facebook. So on behalf of the Alliance, but really in gratitude to John Porter, our wonderful co-presenter, and Vickie Kean. I thank you for your time today. And how about we all say together, keep on speaking up and speaking out. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.